Hello, and welcome to the Investor Guys podcast, the ultimate podcast for serious real estate investors in the know. Join your host, Bill Barnett and Kevin Mills, as they share their expert insights, strategies, and tips to help you succeed in the world of real estate investing. Get ready to level up your investment game with the Investor Guys podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Bill Barnett and Kevin Mills.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Investor Guys podcast. Bill, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, my friend. Good to see you. Did you have a great weekend?
You know what we did? We were under rain for most of the weekend. We had Etta that passed through last night. It just stormed and like crazy. We still got lots and lots and lots of water outside. A lot of South Florida is underwater right now. Right now it is sunny and warm and hot. I think they're saying that Etta is still out there, but she's taking a break. And then I guess she's headed up through the Gulf and going to hit that same path that all the other ones have hit for the last few times, right up through the Panhandle and Alabama and everywhere else. So those guys are going to get a lot worse than we got it.
Yep.
Had a great weekend. Always do get to spend time with the family. We go out and we eat way too much food. Had our sushi weekend like we usually do, Sushi Sunday. And great time. How about yourself?
Yeah, for those of you that have children that are aging, like I have a 28-year-old, I hear from him about once a week. Then my 19-year-old, who's a freshman in college, is doing a much better job than I did as a freshman in college in staying in touch with his parent. I hear from him a couple of times a week. I've so far been managing to see him about once a week. And then my freshman in high school, we took Saturday as a football holiday. He and I we decided that we were shutting the phones down and we were going to OD on football, and we did all day Saturday and into the night Saturday night. And
lots of snacks, I hope. Good. Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, it was a hoot. It's nice. It's not very often, and if you think back when you were in high school, wanting to hang out with Dad was not real high on my priority list. So I was tickled to get a lot of time with that.
I'm sure he thinks you're a cool dad.
I'm just going to let that slide. It's funny. You know this, people listening may not know. For about 9 years, coached youth youth baseball, and several of those years I had 4 teams a year. And of course, he was always on my teams. And then he got into high school, and so I won't be coaching him anymore because he'll be playing high school ball. And we were having this conversation about one of the teams, and I said, I'm sure that. A lot of your teammates probably thought I was an ass as a coach. And he goes, "Oh yeah, they all did, Dad." I was like, "Well, thanks. I appreciate that." But
nice
they all learned a lot.
Enforcement from your own child, huh?
Yeah.
So what do you want to chat about today with our listeners? What were you thinking?
One of the things that you and I have talked about before that I'm not sure that we've covered on a podcast before is the entities that we buy property in, and why we buy them in those particular entities. You and I do some things a little differently there, not right or wrong, just different. So we've got corporations, we've got LLCs, we've got serial LLCs, and a lot of different things. They all have some advantages and some cost structures, and so. Why don't we talk about that today and talk about the entities that we use to protect our assets?
Okay.
And the number one,
okay,
bar none, and I had to get this in so we didn't forget it. The number one single most important ever in the history of your life as far as asset protection goes. So for all you out there, if you're in the car, you may want to pull over, get a pad, so that you can write this down. This is the greatest asset protection principle that you ever need to learn. And if you learn this one inside out and you stay on top of it, everything else will tend to work out.
And not just asset protection, but wealth growth and wealth creation. You can literally grow your portfolio through these entities and protect them because of the asset protection values that are built into these. A lot of times these entities will qualify for credit almost right out of the gate. And what we're going to focus, I think, today on mostly, Bill, is LLCs.
I ain't got to tell you yet.
Series LLCs. What's that?
I ain't got to say number one yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you already covered the asset protection.
No, this is the single most important asset protection lesson you'll ever learn, which is what I'm about to tell you. This is what you want. If you pulled over, this is what you're waiting on. Here it is. Go get some assets that need protecting. All right. So let's move on with the show.
Right.
Most people get freaked out about asset protection.
And get back on the road.
Yeah. Most people get freaked out about asset protection, and so many times they don't have a pot to pee in, and they're worried about asset protection. I always try to remind them, get some assets first. We'll work all this other stuff out. Go get some assets first. All right. What's your favorite?
What I was pointing out really is these are great ways to acquire assets. And really, I don't have a favorite. It really depends upon what I am planning on doing. For this particular episode, let's focus on the ones that are kind of similar, and that would be an LLC, a series LLC, and an LP or LLP. For those of you who aren't familiar, because a lot of states don't do LPs or aren't familiar or popular, an LP is a limited partnership, or an LLP, limited liability partnership. They're very similar to an LLC. Typically, an LP or an LLP will be more of a attorney or doctor type of thing, professional partnership versus investors type of thing. Now, I know that Bill uses series LLCs a lot, and you like that not just because it's an LLC, but because of the benefit of the series LLC. So let's start with that one.
Okay. So there is an economic part to using a series LLC as opposed to just an LLC. And you'll want to check with one of your local attorneys. Your real estate attorney would certainly know this. Whether your state or not recognizes the series LLC. It's about 9 states.
Actually, Bill, you know what? What I should have said was after this break, let's start on the series LLC. Because we're past due for a break. So let's do that, and then we'll get started on that.
All right, thanks. Hang around, we'll be right back.
Awaken your potential and harness the strengths of your inner self. Online courses that you complete at your own pace. Set and achieve all of your goals. Packed with an ever-growing catalog of information, resources, learning programs, weekly recorded coaching sessions, podcast, posts and more to keep you on track for your best life. Because the only person who can guarantee your success is you. www.reallykevin.com.
Thank you for watching the Investor Guys podcast.
Absolution X, limited editions, lifestyle apparel like none other. Get yours today at absolutionx.com.
Live the resort lifestyle every day with Cayman K. The perfect pieces for every wardrobe. Shop the entire Cayman K collection and find your favorites. Find all our styles at caymank.com.
All right, and we are back with segment 2 of our show on LLCs, LLPs, series LLCs. And Bill is just getting ready to start with why he likes to use an LLC, a series LLC, and how that works. So go ahead, Bill. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you before we went into the break.
Check with your local attorney, your real estate attorney. They will know whether your state recognizes the series LLC. Last I looked, there were about 9 states, but there were more coming on board all the time. So take a look to make sure your state recognizes that. Now, if your state doesn't, and you're doing business with somebody out of state like me, and I have a series LLC, your state will recognize mine. It just will not allow you to create them in your state. So that's why you want to ask your local real estate attorney that you use, hey, do we recognize series LLCs in this state? If they do, move on, great. If they don't, then just do an LLC. But what the Series LLC does is it allows you the ability to be able to hold down the cost of an LLC. Now, a lot of people like to go in and set up an LLC online. You can do that for like $200. And that's about as cost effective as you can possibly do it. And that is a viable entity. Here's the problem I have with that. When I look at setting up an LLC, I want to make sure that the whole reason I'm doing an LLC is for asset protection and to segregate some assets away from my personal net worth. If I'm doing that, I want to make sure that I've got another layer of protection involved in my LLC or my Series LLC. And I do that through having it formed by an attorney. Does it cost me more? Absolutely it does. However, if something were to go wrong and I get sued and I am losing assets because of a mistake in formation with that LLC, well, if I'm the one that did the LLC, well, so sad, too bad, screwed. But if an attorney's done that, they have malpractice insurance, and that's the whole reason. So if they make a mistake, they have a way to be able to be covered, much like what you and I do in our businesses when we go out and we get an insurance policy, a general liability policy. It's kind of an umbrella deal. Well, that's the same thing when you have malpractice insurance. It's very much an umbrella deal for insurance policy for those attorneys. So I like to pay a little bit more, get that extra layer of protection and insurance by having my attorney set it up. And then if I'm using a series, I can get the series done for less than $2,000, and I can have 7, 8, 9 LLCs inside that. Now, people used to teach us all the time about having umbrella LLCs and holding corps and those kind of things. This is not the same thing. When you have a Series LLC, so if you've got Bill Barnett Series 1, then you got Bill Barnett Series 2, those are completely separate, and there is no legal jumping from one to the other. And that can happen a lot of times if you have a holding corporation and somebody penetrates the corporation, the corporate veil, they can lock into or go after assets in all the different pieces of the holding pattern, holding company, if they can tie pattern together with that. When you have a Series LLC, that's not the case. They are completely separate from one to the next, and there's nothing that bridges the two LLCs together.
Yeah.
And so
something else that bears mentioning before we get off too far off of the topic. When your corporation, when your LLC is formed by your attorney can also be the officer. This gives you an extra layer of legal protection because anything has to go through the officer as far as notifications and everything else. And your attorney has a legal obligation. It's called client-attorney privilege. He's not able to disclose information that is about your LLC that you may not want disclosed to somebody who is launching a lawsuit. The less information somebody has who's trying to go after you, the more difficult it is and the less likely it is that they're going to try to pursue that because it means more money out of their pocket in order to get that information in the first place. The other thing I want to talk about real quick is what is unique about an LLC versus a corporation versus a sole proprietorship. LLC, simply put, means Limited Liability Company. And that means that the individuals that are in that limited liability company are limited to the percentages that they own in that company. An LLC is a partnership. So if Bill and I were to form an LLC, let's say we do it 75% in Bill and 25% for me. And the way Bill and I typically do that is if Bill's investing 75%, he gets a 75% partnership. If I'm investing 25%, I get a 25% partnership. There's some other little tricky things that we do that we don't have time for. As far as our management of the LLC will give us more points. Our expertise in the LLC will give us more points, that type of thing. But if something happens, whatever it is, the amount of liability that Bill has is 75%. and the amount of liability that I have is 25%. If we put a third partner in there, say 33% each, our liabilities are 33% each. So our loss is going to be 33%, or our responsibility is going to be 33%. So simply put, an LLC is a partnership. It is a legal partnership that is established as a company that gives you more benefits than a sole proprietorship, and it gives you more protection than a sole proprietorship with your partners and with the IRS and with the legal system. So I just wanted to get that out there so that we make sure that you understand what an LLC is about. A series LLC is going to be the same animal. It has a different twist on it.
Yeah, and the big twist with the series is economics. If I'm setting up a $2,000 LLC and I'm having to do individual LLCs for every project, and a project is not necessarily one house, but every project that I'm doing, and I do 10 of those, that's $20,000. But I can do a series LLC, spend 2 on the front end, and look, it varies from attorney to attorney. So I'm just 2,000 as an example number. So I'll spend 2,000, and I can still do 10 LLCs, and it may only cost me $300 to do series 2, series 3, series 4. It's just that first one's going to have a little bit heavier cost in it, and then the rest of the costs are significantly smaller. Now we're up against a break. We'll be right back, and we're going to talk more about this and how you use this to grow your assets and to grow your real estate investing. Hang with us. We'll be right back with more Investor Guys podcast.
Thank you for watching the Investor Guys podcast.
Live the resort lifestyle every day with Cayman K. The perfect pieces for every wardrobe. Shop the entire Cayman K collection and find your favorites. Find all our styles at CaymanK.com.
Absolution X. Limited editions. Seek your absolution. Lifestyle apparel like no other. Only at absolutionx.com.
Get ready for power, for success, for solutions and answers. It's all in one place, www.reallykevin.com. Education, opportunities, coaching, and so much more.
And we are back with our final segment on Investor Guys podcast. And we are talking about LLCs. We were talking about series LLCs just before we went on the break. Another benefit of series LLCs, and Bill touched on this, not really touched on this, he expounded on this. It is the financial aspect, the financial benefit. Not just because of the cost of your subsequent LLCs, but it is easier to move people out of an LLC and put them into another type of structure and be able to recycle that LLC for something else, which means you don't have to keep forming new LLCs. Once you've lived your life cycle for that particular LLC, whatever that is, you can move that person out. You can cash them out when you do your flip, whatever it is, and reuse that LLC without having to form another LLC. So I'll hand the mic back to you, proverbially speaking, and let you finish what you were saying.
On that particular point, one of the things that we do in our LLCs, when we are bringing in outside people, when it's not a sole member LLC and then bringing in additional people into it, is I have them sign, because they're typically coming in for a specific deal. So I have them sign an agreement when they come into the LLC that once that particular property has been liquidated, that they sell me back their participation in the LLC for $10. And what that does is that if I decide that I would like for them to stay and they want to stay and we're going to do another deal, that's fine. We simply do not exercise that addendum. However, if I'm like, okay, we're done with this, we're all splitting up our funds and going our separate ways, then I can buy back their participation, their equity ownership in the LLC, or their membership in the LLC. And now I've got complete ownership in it again, and off they go. Now, there's a sidebar here that's really cool. for years, people have said, oh, gee, the real estate agents, the mortgage industry, all that years ago really put a halt to wholesaling because they did not ever want to see an assignment clause in a contract. And an LLC is a very easy way to sidestep that issue. So if I've bought a property in an LLC name, and a lot of people, they don't want you buying an LLC. No, banks and mortgage companies don't want to necessarily lend you the money in an LLC. However, hard money lenders most of the time require that you have an LLC, which is just odd that there's such a dichotomy. I like using the LLC, prefer that every time. But if I've got a contract accepted in an LLC, in a property that I decide I'd like to wholesale that property, but I know, like if I'm buying a foreclosure, I know the bank representing that's got this foreclosure, they're probably going to flip out if there's an assignment clause on there, because they like to deal straight with the buyer, not with the assignee, or the assigner. That is very common in the industry. So a lot of times they'll just flat turn down anything that's got an assignment clause in it, but I can have it in an LLC. And then if I wanted to wholesale this property to Kevin, I could leave the property alone because the contract is in the LLC name, and I could sell him my interest in that LLC. And he'd go off and do the deal. And I could do the same amendment to the LLC as we were talking earlier. Kevin and I could have an agreement in that, a written one-page agreement. In him purchasing me out of it is that he's only holding it in his name, as in his LLC, as long as it's that deal. Once that deal is liquidated, he sells me back. If I want it back, don't have to. He can own it from then on and do whatever he wants to with it.
Yeah, or you can make your assignment fee cover the costs of a new LLC. Yep. And a lot of times I'll do that. I'll have, and a lot of other investors will do it too. We'll have LLCs just sitting around just for the sake of making offers. And I don't have a problem letting somebody have that LLC, and I can form another LLC as long as they're going to pay me to set up that LLC again. And that can be part of the assignment fee. And I don't have a problem with that either.
And those things, just there's so much to this that you could do with the LLC. And just like we're going to do a whole separate show on C corps, but today using an LLC or using a series LLC, I always think of it as serial because I'm a serial entrepreneur. So but as a series LLC, either way, you can do those and you can get protection. That's what you're looking for. I want to separate my family's net worth from my investment world so that if something happens, and look, none of us ever anticipate anything happening. And you'll have people that'll be listening to this will go, oh, well, I know a guy that does this or that, never has any issues. And look, whatever you do with somebody, you can write any kind of agreement you want. You can write it on a piece of toilet paper, and it doesn't matter as long as everybody's happy. It's this when one party gets unhappy, that you better have your ducks in a row. And if you've been around the business long enough and you do enough business, I can promise you, you will sooner or later get sued. It's the nature of doing a lot of business. A very common question that I ask when I'm interviewing new contractors, when I'm looking at bringing them in the fold, if you will, I ask them, have they ever been sued? And if they tell me no, it tells me one or two things. They're lying, or they don't do hardly any business. And I'm not interested in either one. And so I give them a chance to correct it. And most of them get very nervous when they talk about that, well, yeah, but look, think about a contractor. They can never please everybody. And so that's what I just want a guy to go, yeah, I had this crazy deal. This is okay, fine. Then I know they're out doing business on a regular basis, dealing with the public on a regular basis. They know the things that could happen, and that they're going to be upfront with me. So it's a question I like to ask. If you're around, again, don't worry about getting sued. If you've set yourself up properly, then you've got the right protection, and don't let it freak you out. there are people out there that sue for a living. And I'm not talking about attorneys. I'm talking about people that are just
Individuals,
looking
yes.
for people to sue. And we as real estate investors, when you start getting bigger up in your asset portfolio, they start looking for where money is. And if they see money, a lot of times they'll come after you just because. But if you're structured correctly, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, we need to wrap up, but definitely this is about protecting yourself, and not just protecting yourself and your assets and your family, but making sure that you are protecting your income, because this is a great way to create new tax incentives for yourself. The things that you can take out from a business level versus a personal level are totally different. So this gives you added benefits while protecting yourself. And it's something you absolutely need to look into. I wish we had more time to talk about it. Maybe on a subsequent show, we'll do that. For now, thank you for joining us. Bill, great to see you as always. Everybody, happy investing. Find out more information at investorguyspodcast.com, and we'll see you next time. Have a good day, Bill.
Thanks now.
Thank you for tuning in to the Investor Guys podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and stay updated on the latest trends and insights in the world of real estate investing. Also, don't forget to check us out and see all of our episodes at theinvestorguyspodcast.com. Email us, contact@investorguyspodcast.com. Remember, the key to financial success lies in staying informed and taking action. Stay tuned for our next episode, and until then, happy investing.